My topic is the history of video game music. Why I chose this topic. So, video games has always been a part of my childhood. I remember playing video games as a kid, like Duck Hunter on the original Nintendo. I also played Tetris on the Game Boy, and some of the most memorable things of my childhood is playing video games with my brother on the PlayStation, the first PlayStation, and one of our favorite games to play was Final Fantasy VII. And music has always been just like something that I listen to escape. So learning about the history of video game music was really interesting to me. Japanese video game music and a brief history. Video games became very popular in the early 1980s. There was, I think, the popularity of arcade games was one of the most things that influenced video games. I think the first game with sound was Pong, and the second was Space Invaders. Although it wasn't like a like a song, it was more like sound effects, but it was still considered music. And then I think Pac-Man really brought the popularity of video game music to the world and in Japan because arcades were so popular. And Famicom was released by Nintendo, and then that brought video game music into the homes of kids. And keyboards were the first way video game music was composed. They had to record it on a keyboard, and then they would take that sound from the cassette. They would turn it into numbers, and those numbers were inputted into a program, and that created the sound. I talk about that same as this development of video game music. As technology advanced, the music also advanced for video games. Music was easier to be recorded than how it previously was. With newer technology, you could add sounds like from drums, guitars, bass, and voice, and so on. And with the advancement of technology, it really changed how music was heard in video games. Some of the top composers of Japanese video music games, Junko Ozawa, she was in Namco. Hirokazu Hip Tanaka, he worked for Nintendo. He also developed hardware, and he was the first professional composer for video game music. And then I list some more over here that I found from a video, and I linked the video that I found a lot of this information from at the end of the slide. I think one of the most popular video game music composers was Nobuo Uematsu. Am I pronouncing this? He produced the Final Fantasy music for all the Final Fantasy games. Oh yeah, Uematsu. I misspelled it on the and I list some of the, and then Tekken games, they had a few different music composers. Video game music has influenced like a lot of music that we listen to today, like hip hop, techno, and although these other ones follow into that techno electronical genre, like house and dubsteps, it's also influenced like orchestra concerts, and it's also had influences on other musicians or other producers, and I list some of them here. I haven't actually heard of them, but they were featured again in that video that I link, or the article that I link at the end in the bibliography if you guys want to watch it. It's actually a Red Bull TV series, and it's called Digging into the Carts, and they talk a lot about video game history and just how it's influenced them in ways and what it meant to them. Here I list some popular video game music, and these are the three that really stood out to me and ones that I remember playing. Since I played a lot of Final Fantasy, this beginning theme I heard a lot as a kid. I think I must have played Final Fantasy, I don't know, over 3 or 4 different times. I never finished it, but it was always fun to play, and they also had like miniature games in it. And I remember even like the music just kind of really matched the whole tone of the game, and it was just really, really beautifully done. And then here I talk about Final Fantasy VII, and there's a video that I link here. His name is Arnie Roth, and he is the conductor of Distant Worlds, and he created a whole orchestra dedicated to Final Fantasy music from all different versions of Final Fantasy. And the one I talk about below here, Thomas Broker, he is a producer who turned popular video game music into a full orchestra. And he did this in Stockholm. And he plays different songs from different games, and he turned it into a whole orchestra piece. Closing statements of video. So video game music is the first music genre from Japan to have influenced music worldwide that I learned. It was the most successful musical export out of Japan because of how popular video games are worldwide. And the genre is just really, really popular just because of how much it's touched global masses all over. And the future of video game music is endless because of technology, and it's only getting more and more advanced. Like video games now, especially like role-playing video games, they're like miniature movies. They like tell a story. You start somewhere, and then like there's an ending to it, so it's like as like when you watch a movie and music is important to it, even if it's just in the background, it's just you have to listen to it. So um, in that video in the video Digging into the Carts, they talk a lot about how video game music has to be enjoyable. So a lot of the composers wanted to make music that their players or listeners would enjoy because you have to listen to it over and over again. So that one composer said that he wanted to make music that was good because if the music wasn't good, then people wouldn't like to play the games. Um, Thank you for listening to my presentation, and I hope you guys learned something and enjoyed.